Hey Crowder, thanks for joining me. Welcome to Crosswalk Talk.
Absolutely, Michael. Good to see you, man. Thanks for including me.
You are welcome. We're talking to Grammy nominee Crowder, who has a new album, The Exile. I love it, by the way. It includes several songs that already have charted, including Grave Robber, Somebody Prayed, and Dash. That was a collaboration, I believe, with Toby Mac.
Yeah.
The Exile is the top selling Christian album in the nation right now. Congratulations for
Well, we've
that.
got we've got a good team.
You got to get you do. Tell me this: the album cover shows a desolate dry land.
Yeah.
What's the meaning behind the album title and the cover?
Well, I was I actually off camera before we got started. I was kind of explaining to you. It's kind
Yeah.
of a weird deal. I always work in threes on my albums. I sign a record contract with it's always I've had the same label partner since I started, but it's always been a three record deal. And I don't know about you, but I feel like if I'm obligated contractually to something, I should have some idea what I'm going to go for. So I just need it for my own peace of mind, I think, more than anything else. But I typically walk in with an outline, and so this three album arc is Promise, Exile, and Return. And Promise was the Milk and Honey album that we did right during the middle of the pandemic. So super easy to talk about Promised Land, when you feel like you're in the wilderness and you're thinking, surely something is better on the other side of this. So that was super easy and timely effort to roll out. And now we're in the Exile, and for me, a lot of us that are familiar with Scripture and people of faith, you're familiar with the Old Testament and the Israelites arc and their storyline, but it mimics ours in that we're all strangers in a strange land. You just know inside something's not right here. The ground beneath our feet's broken. Earthquakes and things. Tsunamis
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
this, nature's rough out there. But it started right in the very beginning of our story. In the scriptures, it's we're walking and talking in communion with our Maker, and then we mess things up. And we decide we can do better things than what his intentions are. And so the intentions of God are hijacked, and we're booted, and here we are in exile. And a lot of us don't relate to that in a real sense, other than when you look around, and as I said, you just see in culture that things are broken, and that there's this longing for home and solace and communion again. And so that's where this record is very different than most of my records. The lyric is very vertically oriented. We're like singing to God or responding to God. There's always a few songs that are maybe horizontally oriented, but this one, all the exile is pretty much just almost like
Mm.
when you're sitting in Sunday morning service and preachers preaching, but it feels like a conversation. This record is supposed to feel and be more conversational, because it came out of stories, reconnecting with people that
Yeah.
had come through um lockdown and pandemic, and it's on the other side of that. And so we're catching up, and all the stories, man, they were pretty heavy. A lot of us went through a lot of stuff, and so the songs just came out of talking to folks about what was rattling around inside of me. And it's very horizontal, like I said. It's more story
Yeah.
oriented, which is very different from what I've done most of the time.
One of the songs on the album is called Even in Exile. I'm going to read just a portion of it here. It says, Stranger in a strange land, wandering like a nomad. Nothing around here feels anything like home. I'm curious, what would you say that Christians have always felt that way, or do you sense that the world is growing darker and it's becoming more difficult to be a Christian in our world?
Well, in America, here in the States, it definitely, in my short lifetime, uh, it feels more challenging than ever. I don't know if it's because we have access to one another farther away from our neighborhoods than we used to with social media, and we're so immediately connected to different vantage points, and those vantage points can take on a mass and of proportion that's probably unreasonable, like the voices that are loudest are easy to
Yeah.
feel drowned by. Um, and so I don't know. It depends on really where your feet are set. If your head's facing a television or your phone, and it feels really, really challenging. When you're in your neighborhood with people that know you and love you and are trying to follow Jesus as well. It doesn't feel very difficult. I can think of a lot of other places that probably are way more difficult. But I do feel like what's happening though is the church, I think, is feeling a robust need to respond in a way that maybe in the past we haven't. It feels like there's a tipping point that we're about to hit where
Mm,
the church's voice gets a little more, as I said, robust and
mm.
responsive in light of um, how loud other um, antagonistic toward the church voices can be, because they're pretty loud.
Yeah, yeah. Now you're an outdoorsman. Do you kind of use some of your time outdoors to recover and re-energize and draw inspiration to for your songs?
Bizarrely, most of the songs don't come from there. I think I just turn off, man. Um, Most of it happen when I'm doing manual labor. I'm
Okay.
not kidding. Like when I'm working, or driving, or it usually, I think it's when I'm kind of looking away and busy with something else. All of a sudden, something will pop in. Um, but I think part of it too is, um, and on the road, I think we, as artists, I think part of the job is just to pay attention, and watch and observe and then feel what moves you. There's a necessary consumption that's built into what it means to be alive and human. You gotta take stuff in. So I think part of my role as well is to consume and digest. And if something, it's like when you have a bite of a good steak and you're with a
Hmm.
buddy and you're like, oh my goodness, you got to try this. That's what it feels like. My role is to take stuff in and to go, oh man, this just blew my mind. You gotta check this out. That's what it feels like. And bizarrely, most of the time it comes when I'm busy doing something else. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I get you. What's your favorite style of music? And I ask you that because
oof,
Grave Robber is kind of it's kind of like Wrenched in the Blood. There's another song on there that's
yeah,
kind of hard rock. I saw you perform Higher Power and Milk and Honey on stage, and it
those
looked like
go.
you were really enjoying that, and the whole audience and the arena was into it. And then you have songs that are more mellow
Uh-huh.
on the album, though. So I mean, how do you decide what type of music to pair with what lyrics?
That's a great question. Most of the time, it appears pretty obvious. If I've got a lyric sitting around, there's typically not necessarily melody, but just a tone of a approach to the lyric. Um, but yeah, as far as a favorite genre, I tend to be on the rock and roll, country. I like a lot of country stuff. Grew up, Waylon and Willie and the Boys were quite popular in my early childhood. They got a lot of play in the household. So that's in the blood. But yeah, college, and when I was starting my music journey, in leading and really, figuring out what my role was to be in the church. It's like I was a part of church start, and when you're wanting to help out, they wouldn't. I like to say they wouldn't call me for casserole on Wednesday because that would be. I can cook a mean mac and cheese and some frozen fish sticks, but you're not gonna. That's not gonna play. But I can pitch in with the music. It's kind of been my attitude about it. And at that time when I was first starting to try to figure things out, I was in college, and it's Dave Matthews Band, Pearl Jam, a lot of jam band type things, that Widespread Panic and
Yeah.
Fish and that kind of stuff, college radio. So I think a lot of that was formative in that I'm in college trying to figure out how do I help this community of students voice their journey of faith in a way that feels authentic to their insides, what reflects like sounds and tonalities that are natural to them. And I think that's what led my ear to just, well, when I keep exploring, keep trying to discover, um, because you need to be, I need my finger on the pulse of what's happening. So what bizarrely, one of the biggest helps for me is just music and commercials. Because I figure like if you know you're watching a particular channel, you can pretty much pin the demographic of what they're going for, and then listening to the type of music that they put into the commercials to sell us stuff
Yeah,
tends to be a really good indicator of where the public ear is. And
interesting.
so that's part of it. Part of it is like, oh, I'll dig that. Let me go dig that up and see where that's coming from and what stream that, aligns with. So it's that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Is there a primary message you're trying to convey to your fans on this album?
Um, yes, that everything's gonna be all right. And it sums it up at the end of it. Like, man, it might feel like you're looking around going, my word, this is just all this it's just too much out there. But he's still in control. He's still sovereign. There's story after story of the Israelites in exile. Daniel the lion's den is in the middle of exile. That's an amazing story. Wouldn't happen without displacement. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, same deal. Ezekiel on the banks of the river, and heaven opens up, and so there's amazing, miraculous things that happen when we feel dislocated and know that we're not home yet. But we can have confidence and hope and faith in in those stories as well, that he does deliver, that he is sovereign. And those are the stories I'm trying to tell on this album. Just because I
There,
think
there,
there is a real sense of unease currently.
there's a de-stressing of life when you live like that, isn't there? If you view this world as only temporary,
True,
and
true.
yeah,
But there's a thing that also I think is married to that, where one of my favorite writers is he's uh, a journalist that covers music mostly, but social commentary, Chuck Klosterman. And he's got a little section in a book where he's talking about Christians. He's not a believer, as far as I know, or wasn't at the time anyway. But he's talking about the urgency. Like he's like, I just wish that I could feel like there was something else on the other side of this, and that it mattered right now today what I did with my moment of life, because there should be some urgency if we think it's temporary. Because I
yeah.
think that's frustrating for people that are not of faith. It's like, well, that's why they don't care about the environment, or that's why they don't care about, human tragedies, because they're just passing through, on to glory. And I feel like when we catch the real intent, it changes the way we interact with our neighbor, and our consciousness expands in regards to our responsibility for what we've been given to, um, you know, caretake for here on planet Earth. So I think there's a marriage of like, there's relaxation at the same time, and there's a de-stressor aspect of it, but also there's an urgency, like, oh gosh, this is a breath. What am I going to leverage this for? And so I'm trying to carry both of those things at the same time on this album.
There's a song on there called "Somebody Prayed." Is that a personal testimony?
Well, that came out of, as I was t telling you, most of these are coming from stories. I was on tour with Toby Mac for a couple of years. We did that hit Steep Deal, and Cochran and Co. is a band that was out on that same tour, and so we spent 2 years on the road together. And Michael Cochran's the singer. And
Yeah.
one day we were on the bus, and it was shortly after the Nashville shooting. It was so
Yeah.
tragic, and so many people that were on the tour are from the Nashville area, and were really immediately affected by it. Really close relationships. Some folks that were, had kids at the school, and uh, new parents that were there, or teachers. It hit really hard. It's really heavy out on the road, and so as we're carrying it together and processing all of it together, there was, as I said, there was a robust response, and a loud voices coming like, oh, quote unquote thoughts and prayers. Well, that's going to change that'll change something. Like a critique and not rolling up your sleeves, digging in, and actually affecting change. It was sort of a um, if you don't believe that prayer has any efficacy, you can say
Yeah.
that. But if you've experienced the miraculous effect that prayer can have, that it can change the trajectory of reality, and that you know that as a truth, that when we bend our hearts and our voices and our minds toward the intentions of align with God and ask for them, oftentimes he comes through. And so that was more of a response from our end going, I can tell you, let me speak in your words, let me speak my truth. And my truth is that prayer works. And so those aren't just like fleeting. And it's not even just, it is an attempt to be empathetic when we say, man, thoughts and prayers, we want you to know we're with you is one intention of it. But at the same time, at its most um, robust would be we believe it changes things, and
Mm,
we believe that it can make a difference immediately, and that God is interacting and present in history and active in it. So
yeah.
that would be where that song came from.
Give us a preview of the third album. You mentioned that earlier. So
Yeah, The Return. It was while I was making this uh album, in the writing process, I got really confused. I would be writing and it would be like, oh, this is perfect for the Exile. I'd be with other people and I'd be like, ah, this is perfect. Oh, this is amazing. I can't believe it. It's all just coming together. And then all of a sudden I'd be in a write and it would be, and I'd love the song. The song's like blowing my mind. I'm like, this does not fit on this album. And I've never had that experience. It's like, if I've got an outline, I know what I'm trying to do. And I've just never, I don't have a lot of songs just sitting around that didn't get onto things. You know, like a lot of my friends, they'll write 80 songs and try to pick 10 out of them. I don't have a lot of that uh stuff lingering about. And so it was really confusing. And they were all really congregationally oriented. I would call them liturgical language, vertically vertical
yeah,
lyrics. And I was just it took me way too long to understand. Oh my goodness. Well, that's what I was wanting the return to be was vertical, like songs that we now sing together on the other side of that displacement feeling that we can sing like, ah, there is hope. I've experienced it. I know it. I'm going to respond to God because of his kindness and sovereignty and activity. And so I realized both records are coming at the same time. And what I love about it was my discovery of it felt like I'm a part of the symbolism. I'm a part of the metaphor. I'm experiencing of course, he gives you songs to sing while you're in the middle of something that feels bleak. So for me, it was a discovery that I was thrilled to make. And I love moments like that where I'm doing my best, I'm working hard, I'm trying to make these songs good. Um, but when there's stuff that happens and you're like, all right, I love that, but I feel like I had very little to do with it. I wish I could say I was that creative, or I wish I could say that I was that clever, but I don't know where that came from. That blows my mind. So that was one of the things that hit during the middle of making this Exile record is
yeah.
I've already made most of the return because he was giving me these songs to sing in the middle of dislocation. I felt wonderful about it. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it'll be coming pretty soon. I don't know exactly when. The faucet's still running, so it'll probably be a longer grouping of songs than we have done in a while. But as long as the faucet's running, I'm just gonna keep going. So I think it'll be early next year. I think they call it Q1.
That's yeah. We're looking forward to it. Well, let me ask you this: what would you be doing right now if you were not singing? What career would you be in?
Man, I've always had the worst jobs, dude. If I before I was doing helping with music and it turned into a thing, I mean, I was boxing wreaths that you hang on your wall, like the decorative wreaths. I was in a warehouse full of vines and rolling wreaths and boxing them and putting them in semi trucks. And uh that would be another job I had was delivering altered suits in a van to people. That was my day. Was yes, I would have suits from a men's store that I would take in a van around town and deliver to the customers who had ordered their suits to be tailored. It would be something very, very, it would be manual labor. It's something that I'm sweating over. That would be what I'd be doing.
But early in life, you realized you wanted to be a singer, though. This was
Uh, no, I had no intention. What I really wanted to do was work for my dad.
okay.
He had an insurance agency, and I wanted to take over the Crowder insurance agency. I was like, this is perfect. I thought he was the coolest dude on the planet. He had the wood paneling walls. The behind his desk had the wallpaper with the forest scene. He's talking on the phone with a little shoulder holder while giving quotes for people's car. I thought, man, this dude is doing it. He is living. So I thought I would take over the family practice since we had the nepotistic hookup. And then my junior year of college is when the church started. And as I said, I was just trying to help out. And
Yeah.
about a year into it, while trying to find songs to sing, it was just like, well, I'm going to try. I'll give. I think I need to give a stab at writing something that is specific to our experience
Yeah.
there in Waco, and that's how the whole thing got started. And my wife says, because she was doing all the road managing and booking and all the early stuff where getting us from A to B, and was a road manager for 16 years with us. And her version of it is, I thought they'd stop calling eventually. This is this is not a real job, bro. Yeah, enjoy your cute little hobby. Um, so yeah, it's been a really cool journey that was unforeseen, and I'm happy to have been a part of getting to help the church say stuff that I think
Yeah.
informs us with music.
Well, we're glad you didn't go into insurance. I will say that, I guess. We've been speaking to Grammy nominee Crowder. He has a new album, The Exile, that includes several songs that have already charted, including Grave Robber, Somebody Prayed, and Ask. And folks can get more information at crowdermusic.com. Crowder, thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Man, thank you. Wonderful to talk to you, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.